I'm not connected here. Got it. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica from Northern Atlas, and it's day 3. And if you are not quite on the train yet, we've left the station, but you can probably run and jump onto the old caboose and get in here. So I provided a 30-minute guided tour of what a reading looks like with me, condensed start to finish, what we focus on and how we focus on it. And yesterday I looked at an example chart, Leon, fictional name, but a real person. And they very graciously offered their anonymous birth details so that we can all learn together and kind of enjoy this. So, up you go. My dog wants up on her day bed, but she would like some help apparently. And if Leon was here, she would help you. Yeah, I guess I'm going to help you. Okay, 1 moment. Some mornings, Okay, so yesterday we talked about the ascendant, how this is like our point of purpose. And when I say point, I just mean it's not a celestial body, it's a calculated point in our chart so that we can do all the cool mathematical stuff that astrology invites us to do. So, there's a real value that is attached to our ascendant, aka our rising sign. And for Leon, her ascendant is in Aquarius. It's at 1 degree. So it's the very start of the Aquarius sign. And it really gives me this idealistic kind of vibe. And because we're not in conversation, I'm not getting feedback. And this is not someone that I've read for before. So just keeping in mind, if you are Leon, if you are watching and want to follow along, I'm just going to be making suggestions as to what we might be seeing in this person's life, the sort of themes and stories and patterns that keep sort of cropping up. And in the case of the ascendant and the chart ruler, what's cropping up in terms of how do you know that you're on the right path? How do you assess okay, other people might not care about this marker of progress, but I do. So we're gonna today look at the driver, the captain, the person steering the ship of our lives, of ourselves. And that is Saturn in Sagittarius for Leon. So give me 1 moment to bring up Leon's chart. So what we can learn, what we can start to pull back the threads, the braids, the tangled web of an individual when looking at the chart ruler is, what is that planet? We've ascertained that it's Saturn. Where is it positioned in their chart? For Leon, it is the 11th house, which is the house of your public. So the people that potentially receive what you get up to in the 5th house, which is your creative energy and creative output, what it is that you bring into the world, which can be life or art, which gives us a new breath of life, a new perspective on life. So the opposite side of that creative process is, of course, the audiences that consume it, or the patrons and benefactors that support it. And that is where Leon's chart ruler is located. Plus, the chart ruler is in the sign of Sagittarius, which we touched on yesterday. But essentially, the Sagittarius is this backdrop of a dark academia philosophy chamber in Oxford. I'm totally conjuring up especially with Saturn there, I'm conjuring up the room from the Golden Compass, where Lyra hides, either the book or I've only seen the first season of the show, but yeah, that like chamber where all of the old dudes are strolling in, and somebody might get poisoned, but all in a day's work kind of thing. They're sort of like, they're adventurers, some of them, they're philosophers, most of them. Yeah, and this very like austere uh dress, and yeah, it totally brings up that imagery of like um your chart ruler is like, okay, this is where I can kind of thrive, this is where I can really operate and like dig into. So then if we were in consultation together, I would start asking, like, what are your values? What is it that is sort of like a non-negotiable for you, whether that's like people that access you on Instagram or your partner or your family and friends. Like, how is it that you allow access to you? And something that this made me think of is that Leone, fake name, real person, on their Instagram, she, I think pretty much, I think every single time, will write out manually the image description for all of her Instagram posts. And that feels like a very Saturn in Sagittarius in the 11th house to me. And at this point, I would probably bring that up, and I would be like, so when did this start? How did this start? What does this do for you? What sort of like obligations do you feel that you're fulfilling, or potentially not fulfilling? I'm not trying to tell you how you feel. Yeah, what prompted this? How do you keep it going? Is this something that feels easy for you to do? Is it something that is kind of a weight on your shoulders, but it's something you're willing to do? So this is where, I mean, we're getting into dialogue so quickly within the reading. And it just helps create the context, right? So I'm providing this example. Thank you, Leon. But ultimately, I don't see a lot of value in astrologers, specifically myself, looking at a chart and saying, oh, well, I know you now. Like, the lived experience is what we're trying to create meaning and stories with, and connect that to a much bigger cosmic scale. And so when we say, okay, Saturn is Leon's like ship captain, we then talk about like pace. So you were born in 1988. When you've looked at your life and its sort of path and compared that to your peers, where have you sort of fallen? Do you feel that you've gravitated towards like your elders? Do you feel that you have potentially like sought out support from the wizened people that are in your community? Because I do think we can look at Saturn and Sag in the 11th house specifically. I also have Saturn and Sag, but it's in the 3rd house. So I'm much more about like, how do we maintain order and equity and fairness in my local space? And the 11th house can be local, but it can be, we have personal broadcasting capabilities now. So that's what made me think of the Instagram audiences that are presumably benefiting from their alternate text, all the tags that they're adding to Instagram to make their life more accessible to their audience. So, and then I might make some suggestions around like, you've got Uranus is retrograde, very, very close. It's actually kind of moving its way back to Saturn, or it was moving its way back to Saturn at the time that you were born. And you have a trine to this Aries moon that is sort of boosted by being co-present with Mars, who rules Aries. But sticking with Saturn for now, what kind of unpredictability do you experience in this realm of, like good fortune, good luck, your audience, like the people that are sort of paying attention to you? And I'm sort of thinking like the previous acting career, the relationships that you were building. And I just say previous because I haven't kept in touch with you and I don't know what's going on in your life currently, besides your cute baby. So yeah, Uranus is also very close to my Saturn in the third house. And so this idea of like, for me, the third house, it's like my day getting derailed. And I wonder, what sort of experiences have you had with surprises, derailment, something unexpected, ultimately maybe working out, but not being the thing that you signed up for to begin with. And because it's your chart ruler, has this theme just sort of been like every time I set my course or set my sights on something, especially when somebody's watching, there is this real sense of like, oh, they're all watching this happen and it didn't go the way that I planned. So I'd be curious about that. And if we were in consultation together, I would be getting some feedback there. So because we're not, I don't want to drag this out too much and start making things up or making Leon think that any of this is specific to her. But this is kind of the start, and this is a great indicator of what kind of themes, what kind of conversations, what kind of suggestions will potentially pop up, depending on what your chart looks like. So I'm very much responding to, all of these glyphs, all of their interconnections. They create little inspiration within my mind and start kind of ricocheting. And I piece that together with, okay, what do I know about Leon? What was sort of last thing that we maybe spoke about, or what was the last time, like era of our lives that we were in more regular communication? And so I'll bring that kind of thing up. But for people that I maybe don't know previously, we've never really worked together before, we weren't friends before, we can still do this. And that's where like an intake form becomes really helpful, because it can anchor me and you in this experience of like, okay, so you said the other day that this is what you're interested in talking about. Is that still relevant? And it can be as intimate and as revealing as we want it. I don't want anyone to think that when I'm looking at your chart, I'm like making judgments or prescribing either an attitude or an action, some sort of behavior that I feel that, oh, well, you must feel this way or you must have acted this way. It's really more about like making suggestions, kind of like improv, like, let me volley this over to you. And if that's not a good fit, like we can start again. Or if that's not a road you want to go down for very long, as you can see, there's loads of stuff in a chart. Like we don't have to spend all of our time on the chart ruler if that is not particularly resonant for you. And the more stories we unfurl and tie together, the more we sort of have to say about the stuff that we didn't think we had very much to say about at the beginning. So there we go, day 3 wrapped. Thank you so much for watching and for being here. And thank you again, Leon, for your fake name, real person example. Tune in again for day 4, and we're going to be looking at the sun. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Bye.